right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to the 2021 Public Service Career Expo. My name is Amy Wenson, and I'm with the Mid-America Regional Council. We're very glad that you've joined us this morning. We've got several classrooms of students from Nolan Middle School, so good morning to you guys. We've got some students from Fort Osage and Turner High School. Mr. Baker's class from Central Middle School. We're really glad that you're here. If you have not already, then please do put your information in the chat so that we've got a record of your attendance, and we give you a shout out if we can. But at this time, it's my pleasure to talk to you a little bit about fire and EMS careers. We've got a great panel here today that's going to share some information, and hopefully you've got some great questions for them. But we're going to just go ahead and get started right away. I want to talk to you a little bit about fire and EMS field first, just so that you can kind of put it in context. Maybe you've seen fire trucks running around your city, or maybe you wanted to be a fireman or dressed up as one for Halloween when you were younger. But have you ever thought about the behind the scenes work that the fire department does, or the dispatchers who answer your 911 calls? Well, today we've got some great presenters, some experts in the field who are going to share information and answer your questions. Talk a little bit about some of the other duties that they do and maybe how they found their career path. So first of all, I'd like to have them introduce themselves to you. We're going to start with Carrie Bae. And Carrie, would you go ahead and tell us a little bit about your job and about yourself?
Sure. My name is Carrie Bae. I'm an operations supervisor at Johnson County Emergency Communications. We do fire and EMS 911 calls and dispatch for all of the county and for Miami County, which is just south of us. I have been here for 8 years and have been in my current role as a supervisor for the last year. I actually stumbled onto this job by pure accident. It was something I was always curious about, but I didn't know if I had the required training or schooling to do this. And upon discovering I didn't need any of that because they were going to give me it all right here, I jumped on it and have never looked back.
Fantastic. So you're saying that the training that you learned was on the job, and really you came with no pre-education. You knew this was an opportunity for you. And so can you talk to us, like, how long did that training take?
Our training on average takes about 6 months to complete. The first part is learning how to take 911 calls. And then once you have mastered that, then you learn to talk on the radio to our crews like Luke and Corey. And after you're done with that, you're a full-fledged on your own dispatcher responsible for your own position.
Awesome. Sounds like you really enjoy your job.
I do. I love it.
Fantastic. Captain Ingram, please introduce yourself to our students and tell us a little bit about what you do.
My name's Corey Ingram. I'm a fire captain with the city of Lenexa. I've been here almost 18 years. I've been a firefighter for 20 years. I started as a volunteer in Bonner Springs, and that's where I got the majority of my training before I went to Johnson County Community College for my EMT. We do a lot of training when you're first hired here, like in an academy, anywhere from six weeks. Sometimes it's longer, sometimes it's shorter, depending on the size of the class. And then from there, it's continual training. We train on something at least once a week. And the majority of the stuff I did to get prepared for here came from volunteering either with Bonner Springs or Walker Russo Fire Department.
Luke, can you join us? Can you explain a little bit about what you do? Introduce yourselves.
My name is Luke Johnson. I'm a lieutenant for Johnson County MedAct. We are the ambulance service that services all of Johnson County. I've been here with MedAct for 6 years and a paramedic for a total of 8. I really didn't know what I wanted to do when I was in high school and after high school. And honestly, I just kind of stumbled into this job because it looked interesting. It did involve a pretty fair amount of schooling, prerequisite classes, EMT class, and then a paramedic class at Johnson County Community College, which is a year long and pretty extensive. There's no summer break or anything like that, so that's kind of unfortunate for going through that, but it was definitely worth it. It's a very rewarding career, and I really enjoy what I do and where I do it at. And shout out to Turner High School because I live in Turner.
Yay, that's awesome. Thank you so much. Well, in the video, you may have noticed that we talked a little bit about agilities, and agilities are strengths and interests when it comes to careers. So as you look at your future and you start to explore careers, the agility process is a way that you can identify some things that maybe you like to do or you're good at or that you're interested in and you want to develop those agilities. So I want to share with you that the two common agilities for the fire and EMS field are carrying and serving, and then also operating equipment, which obviously all of you do in your different ways. So can we, Carrie, can you talk a little bit about carrying and serving and how that works into your job?
Yeah. Truth be told, you have to care in order to do this because it's a very difficult job. You're going to hear some things taking 911 calls that are hard to hear, and you have to be able to stay calm for them and help them until Luke and Corey can get on scene and actually put hands on and take care of them. So sometimes that means you're delivering a baby. That means you're coaching CPR or helping somebody control bleeding after they've been shot. And you just can't do things like that if you don't care about what you're doing. Not only that, the other side of this job is caring about the people you work with, my crews. I have to make sure they're safe and that I'm always their ears when they're on a scene or in a fire to care about them and make sure they're getting home safe at the end of the day.
That sounds like it's a very rewarding job. Would you say that you leave every day feeling like you've accomplished something, like you've helped someone?
Every day. I've never one day left here in 8 years without feeling like I helped somebody in my community or one of my firefighters or my medics.
That's fantastic. Corey, can you talk a little bit about like a typical day, or would you say that there really is a typical day in your job?
Well, that's a tough question. I mean, there's nothing really typical about it. We can have typical calls where we kind of run of the mill, maybe a minor wreck or smoke detector or medical call. But as far as the typical day, we get here, we check out our truck thoroughly every day, even though the crew just started every saw, checked every piece of equipment 24 hours before. We still check it every single day. So to like Luke with his equipment, we make sure our medications aren't expired, our batteries are charged, gas is fueled up, and then we clean the house. We clean the station every single day. And then from there, we decide what our day's going to be, what training we're going to do, and all of this is subject to be interrupted for a call. But as far as a typical day, I mean, probably the first couple hours of the day are going to be typical. Then after that, anything can happen.
Great. Luke, can you talk a little bit about technology and how it plays into what you do?
Yeah, we use a lot of different technology, anywhere from cardiac monitors that can show us everybody's vital signs and EKGs, so their heart rhythms, from our CAD system, our computer-aided dispatch. I'm looking at it right now, and I can see every call that's going on in the county, and I can look and see what's going on. There's different radio systems that we have. We use Toughbook laptops to write all our patient care reports. Technology is a big part, and I think technology is becoming a big part of just everyday life.
That's awesome. Now, I want to remind you, if you're watching us, if you want to put a question in the chat, then we'll address those to our speakers here, and you can get interaction right away, live from the chat. Just put your question right in there. We'd be happy to address those. Carrie, can you tell me what's like the most exciting thing that you've ever had to be a part of? I mean, I'm sure it's all very exciting, but like, have you ever helped deliver a baby?
Yes, I have delivered 2 babies over the phone. Both were out and healthy and screaming by the time our crews got on scene. Outside of that, probably the most newsworthy event that I've been a part of was the City Place fire in Overland Park. That was a very, very large multi-jurisdictional event. That was, I can't even remember how many alarms, 13 alarm fire, I believe. So we had people coming in from Kansas City, from Lawrence, and basically every firefighter in Johnson County there. That was the biggest event that I got to be a part of. That was pretty cool.
Wow, that would be very exciting. We do have a question in the chat. Does the firehouse still have a pole to slide down? I have that question too. And also, can other people come over to the firehouse and slide down if you do have one?
We do not have one. I wish we did. I wish we had a slide or something cool. But traditionally, the pole comes from more heavily populated areas where the firehouse, the garage is below and the sleeping quarters are above, and that was the purpose of it. Most of our fire stations are one story now, but no, we don't have a pole.
But you do have a dog. Tell us a little bit about
We
your
do.
dog.
We have a standard poodle. Her name's Lucy. I'm sure she'll be out here pretty soon. She's 1 year old and part of a program with Pause for Autism, kind of getting her socially accusated with all sorts of different people. And she was here we had an open house of 1,000 people. She's running around, playing in the water. So that's actually one of the cooler things that we have. I take a dog over a fire pole. We go outside and play catch with her when I'm on duty. It's great.
Oh, that is great. So can you tell me, like, have you been involved in car accidents where you have to cut people out of cars? Is that a part of your job?
Yeah. Like I said, our job is anytime somebody's in a situation they can't handle, and Carrie can vouch for that. I mean, the stuff people call 911 for is pretty crazy, and I get it. I mean, if you can't handle it, that's who you call for help. But we use our extrication equipment for stuff other than just cutting up cars. We've been able to use it to help people out. But we cover K10 and K7, and before they had the cable system in on K10, we used to use our extrication equipment quite a lot. Now it seems like if we have to do anything, it's maybe pop open a smashed door. We don't have to cut a car completely to pieces as much as we used to have to. We're able to prevent some of those head-on collisions. But we still get used all the time. We have airbags. We use those this summer to lift a semi off the front of a car so we could pull it out from underneath.
Can you describe that a little bit more? I'm thinking airbag like in my car
Yeah,
that's going to pop out of my steering wheel.
No,
but...
the airbag's probably going to be about that thick, and you can stack them on top of each other, and they're controlled by our air tank, the same air tank that we breathe, and they can lift. They're all different sizes, but anywhere from 4 to 16 tons, and all we're doing is moving it inches because we just need to get a little bit of a gap to either get a person out or another vehicle out. It's a pretty cool process. They're not actually at my station here. They're at a different station that covers I-35.
Awesome. Luke, can you tell me a little bit about like the shifts that you work, or do you usually work the same shift, or can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we, throughout the entire county, we work what's called the Berkeley schedule. We work 24 hour shifts. It kind of works like 24 hours on, 24 hours off, 24 hours on duty, another 24 off, 24 hours on, and then we get 4 days off in a row. So that usually comes out to about 10 or 11 days a month. And I realize that 24 hours at a time at work sounds like a lot. And sometimes it can be. You never know what the day is going to bring. You could be in your ambulance or fire truck all day running calls, or you could just be sitting at the station not running calls. It just, it really depends. But I really enjoy our schedule, 10 days a month. If you like traveling or vacations, it's perfect for that. You can take a few days off and then take a nice 2-week vacation. So I really enjoy the schedule. I've never really had a traditional 9-to-5 job, or like a desk job or something like that. So I don't know what that's like. So I'm used to this, and I don't know if I could ever go back to doing anything else.
There's a question in the chat. So what do you like to do on your time off? What's your free time activity?
While I'm at work, there's a lot of different things we can do. We can training. There's a certain number of training hours we have to have every year to maintain our licenses and certifications. So there's always something like that to do. Every day we have station duties, and that may vary from station to station. And that's just keeping the place clean. Just like you would your house, mopping floors, cleaning bathrooms, typical, upkeep stuff. And then the rest of it, it's kind of your time. We're free to take naps, which is really nice. There's not a lot of jobs out there where you can get paid to sleep. Watch TV. We spend a lot of time just kind of sitting at the kitchen table, hanging out and talking. Most stations we eat meals together. So it's really kind of up to you. If you have a side hobby or a side job, it's a good time to work on that, or projects or anything. So it's kind of open.
That's awesome. Carrie, can you tell me, have you ever had a child call 911? Do you ever get children calling?
A lot of times we do, yeah. And really, the most important part of 911 is knowing where you're at. So teaching kids that early is so important. But kids are really good at identifying things around them. They can tell you what color their house is, or what's across the street, or there's a big Walmart here, and that helps us to zero in on where they are. But they call a lot, yes.
Have you ever had one call to ask for help with their homework or any kind of random questions like that?
Unfortunately, in Johnson County, we are a secondary PSAP. So when you call 911, you actually are going to talk to the police first. And if you need a fire truck or an ambulance, then you get to us. So we don't usually get those type of calls, but we get the real
Well,
I need help calls.
I guess that's an important way to focus your energies. So I can understand that. Corey, there's a question in the chat about injuries, being a fireman. Can you tell us, have you or any of your crews been burned before?
Yeah, it comes with the job. I mean, ideally, nobody ever gets hurt. We train for the worst and hope for the best. But even with that, you can't control all the conditions and everything going on. So injuries happen. I've had minor burns, but nothing significant. I've had crew members get burnt at fires and had to leave. But everything they've been able to come back from, whether it's breaking something or surgery, it's a little tough on the body, but it's nice because it also keeps you active. But like I said, we try to prepare and train so nobody gets hurt, but we also are prepared for when we get hurt, how to react to it and how to help each other.
And so all of the folks on your crew, are they EMTs or firemen? Can you explain that a little bit?
I will have at least one paramedic. My firefighter right now is in paramedic school, so he's in and out. He's not here very often because he's doing ride-alongs or he's at the hospital doing his clinical studies. But on all of the fire trucks or any apparatus you see in Lenexa, you will have at least one paramedic on it, and the rest will be either EMTs or EMT advanced.
Okay, that's helpful. Let's see. Luke, can you tell us a little bit about some of the types, like what's a typical day for you? You gave us a little bit about your schedule. So what time would you get to work and when would you start?
So our schedules run 8 a.m. to 8 a.m. So most people usually like to get here about 7:30, 7:40. And that way you can kind of relieve the crew, the off-going crew, just so they don't get that, 7:55 call and makes them stay late at work. And especially if they've been up all night running calls, nobody wants to get that one last one. So we try to get here a little early. And like Corey said earlier, a lot of our ambulances and fire trucks are in the same station. So we're doing the same things. We're checking our trucks out, checking expiration dates on drugs, equipment, making sure everything's in order and we have everything that we need to be ready to respond to just about anything. So those first couple hours of the day are usually used for that, making sure everything's in order with the station, the ambulance. And then after that, it's, it just varies from day to day.
That's interesting. We talked a little bit about the training for everyone. Carrie, you said that yours it was on the job, that when you got hired, they said, this is what we're going to do. Can you tell me a little bit about the skills that you use at work? Do you type a lot? Do you use a computer
Yes.
for typing? Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, and I'm not sure how well you can see, but our typical dispatch console has about 8 or 9 computer monitors. So for us, the biggest skill that we use is our multitasking. I need to be able to hear what's coming through the radio or through the phone, and also to type at the same time. So that's a skill that takes a little bit of time to get comfortable with. I would say our minimum requirement is 30 words a minute, but most of us type significantly more than that, because that's what we do all day, is type information into our computer for our crews. So there's a lot of technology here. There's cameras so we can see what's going on the streets, as well as different mapping systems so we can always track where our crews are at in case they're getting lost or they need help, something's going wrong. We just have to be able to see where they're at and what's going on at all times.
So when you say you type information to your crews, is that in addition to what you're telling them, or is it the same information, or can you talk about that?
Yeah. So Luke mentioned earlier that he's got a computer right in front of him.
I
And
can show you if you'd like.
yeah. So as I'm taking a 911 call, the information they're giving me, I am typing into call notes. So as he's responding, he can actually see that on his computer. If it's something that's really pertinent as far as how they get into the house or anything right now, COVID is a big thing. So if we're sending them into a house where there's COVID positive patients, we're going to tell them that over the radio to make sure they copy it. But otherwise, we're sending them call notes so they know what they're walking into.
Awesome. That's interesting. So then on your side, Luke, do you use any kind of computer typing? Do you communicate that way, or is yours mostly over a radio?
As far as like call operations, it's mostly over the radio. Talking to Carrie and the other dispatchers, talking to the other crews that we're responding with. But then on the flip side, we have to, write reports for every call we run, whether that be an accidental trip on a medical alarm or a cardiac arrest. So it's going to generate a report. And then there's typical, work stuff, emails, training stuff. But I definitely think Carrie and dispatch use computers a lot more than we do.
Mm-hmm. Corey, talk to us a little bit about when you were like a high school student, what you wanted to do. What did you see yourself where you are today, or kind of talk to us a little bit about the path that's brought you to the firehouse?
When I was in high school, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I mean, I always thought it'd be cool to be a firefighter, but there was no path. I didn't know anybody who was involved in it. I didn't even know how you get involved. So, I just went through high school like everyone else. Like, all right, I guess the next step's college. And I went to college, and it wasn't what I wanted. So after wasting a lot of time in college, I decided to pursue something I wanted to do. So just like Luke said earlier, I couldn't see myself at a job where I had to come to a desk every day and sit down. That just sounded miserable to me. So I looked around at what options, what can people do, and looked back, and I was like, you know what? I always wanted to be a fireman. And actually, after 9/11 happened, that's when I quit KU and started at JUCO and started down that path. That's how I found out about Bonner Springs. I became a volunteer, and then from there, I met all the firemen I needed to know to figure out how to be successful.
So you'd say you had some mentors in your career that kind of helped you with your path?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's something that's important too. If there's something that you're considering or maybe passionate about or want to know about, is finding a mentor so you can learn the truth about it. You can see the ins and outs and what you should do, what you shouldn't do. But I had a lot of good mentors that helped me get to where I am today.
And then have you had the opportunity then to kind of pay that forward and to start mentoring a younger generation?
Yeah. as a captain, I'll get assigned new firefighters either out of the academy or I can get one that's maybe had a couple years. But it seems like most of the time you get a fairly new firefighter, and from there, you got to teach them the way. You got to teach them the Lenexa way, my way, the way I want it done, and also, figure out what they want, what they need. Which career path do they want to be? A fire investigator? Do they want to do rope rescue? Do they want to go to medic school? Whatever they need, and help them be successful.
I want to address this question to each of you individually, but it seems like the skills and the experience that you have in your positions would be easily transferable. Like if your spouse needed to move to Chicago and you needed a job, it seems like each of these careers would always be in demand and that you'd be able to really work pretty much anywhere. Carrie, do you feel like that?
I do, absolutely. And you would find nationwide right now that every dispatch center is short-staffed and begging for people to come work for them. So it is a skill that once you learn, you could take anywhere. The problem is that you'd have to start over and learn their way and learn their policies and their procedures. But yes, you could take this job anywhere.
And the skills as far as staying calm under pressure, that would transfer pretty much anywhere you went, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Luke, do you feel like you could go anywhere and work?
Yeah, pretty similar answer to Carrie. The skills and the actual job and the calls you run and the people you take care of don't change based on where you're at. I mean, people are going to call 911 all over the country. But like she said, you're going to have to probably start at the bottom again. So there's benefits to staying where you're at, and there's a shortage everywhere. Dispatchers, firefighters, paramedics. So at least at this moment, it'd be pretty easy to go anywhere. And if you're good at your job and know what you're doing, and I'd say it'd be pretty easy to get a job somewhere.
And Corey, similar question. So do you have folks who've transferred from other departments? Do you see a lot of movement in that area? Do you see that as a skill set you can pick up and take somewhere else if you needed to?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially if you're early on in your career. Or, I mean, if I wanted to, I could leave now. But just like Luke said, I'd have to start over as firefighter. That's just the way it is. What's nice though is, if you're not sure about it, you could still get all your certifications as far as, your firefighter 1, firefighter 2, your EMT, and what they have what's called the National Registry. So it doesn't matter whether I'm in Texas, Kansas, Arkansas, I'm an EMT, and there's a couple formalities you have to do with it, but you could get all the training pretty much you need here in the county, and you could go anywhere with the exception of places that have a residency requirement. I know like KCMO, you could just walk in off the street and apply. You don't have to be a firefighter. You don't have to be an EMT. You just have to have, I think, a GED or a high school diploma, and they teach you everything in-house. And there's some departments like that. I've lost firefighters that have gone to bigger departments like in Houston that moved out of state. They wanted to go work for a bigger city, or the family needed to move, and they're able to, just apply and get a job. So it is nice that, you own those skill sets and that training. You could take it with you and use it somewhere else.
That's awesome.
There's a lot of other things you could do. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Please.
Like being a paramedic or an EMT doesn't just mean you have to work on an ambulance or a fire truck. You can go work in an emergency room. You can go take contract jobs and work on oil rigs offshore. You can work on cruise ships. There's any number of different things you can do. My girlfriend is an EMT as well, and she's done multiple month-long COVID deployments where she goes somewhere across the country and tests people and gives vaccines, or works in a field hospital. So it's not limited to just, running 911 calls if that's not your thing. There's a few different things you can do with it.
Awesome. So Carrie, we talked a little bit about the rewarding parts of your job. What would you say is the hardest part of your job?
I think that probably the hardest part is that you can't put hands on. So I can't see what's going on. I can only rely on what they're telling me and what I'm hearing. So not being able to physically help them sometimes is really difficult on a call that they really need help, particularly if it's a kid who's found their parent not breathing. I can coach them through how to do compressions and CPR, but not being able to be there and comfort them and help them and actually do something, sometimes that's really difficult. Or probably the worst thing for a dispatcher to hear is one of their crews in trouble. They're on a fire or something's going on and they're screaming in the background, just not being able to protect them or keep them safe. That is very difficult.
Goes back to that caring that we care much for our team and for the community members that we serve. Can you tell me how do you work through that? How do you decompress and kind of get the stress out of your brain and your body?
For me, we do a lot of talking here with each other and just supporting each other. I am fortunate that I have made relationships with a lot of people that I work with in the field. So it's not uncommon for me to show up at the fire station and check on them or just make sure they're okay or bring them baked goods, which is a great way to keep them in your good graces when you keep them up all night, just for future dispatchers out there. Outside of that is on your free time doing things that can help you decompress, whether that's working out or baking or making sure you're taking time to do yoga, something to help keep you centered and keep you calm. That's the best thing you can do.
That's good advice for all of us. Luke, would you say that you feel like it's kind of a family environment where you work?
Oh, 100%. We spend a third of our time at work, and you get to know everyone you work with really well. I mean, you spend 24 hours at a time with somebody. You kind of becomes like a second family. And like I said earlier, we eat meals together, we sit, we talk, we laugh. And it's really hard not to become close with somebody that you spend that much time with.
Corey, would you say the same?
Yeah, it definitely is a family. You're at events, you're at birthdays, weddings, childbirths. I mean, you can't live with somebody that long and not have that relationship. And like any other family, we all got dysfunctional members of our family, but we still love them. I mean, we'll still protect them. And, I don't think that, I know that anybody I work with, I could go to and ask, hey man, I really need help, and they'll drop anything. I mean, that's what we do is we help people and, we help each other even more.
So at the end of the day, when you leave your shift, you feel like you've accomplished something and you feel like the skills that you contribute then have been valuable and significant?
Yes.
All
it's
of
a
you,
good
yes.
feeling.
Every day.
Good feeling. That is fantastic. Well, we just have a few minutes left. If there's anybody that wants to ask a question, put that in the chat box for either Corey or Carrie or Luke. We'd be happy to address that. We do appreciate all of the folks that have been here. I noticed Bridges and KCK joined us, and I think there was another one, but thank you. Thank you, folks, for being here. We want to make sure we do get all your questions answered, though. So if you have anything else, just put it in the chat. And if you have an opportunity, the Agile Work Profiler is a tool that you can use to identify some strengths that you have if you're interested in a career in public service, maybe in fire or EMS or dispatching or any of the EMS fields. We're excited to share those with you today. Want to make sure that we get your questions answered. We're just about out of time, though, so let's see.
Amy, I just wanted to also let you know that there is one fire pole in Johnson County.
Yay! Where is it?
It's in Olathe, Kansas at their newest station. They have a 2-story station and they have a fire pole in it.
That's good information. Good to know. We'll make sure to share that with everyone. All right. Well, if you'd like to take some advantages of some of the opportunities, we're going to share a list of internships and job shadowing, and all of that will be on our website. So make sure you check out careerexpokc.org and yeah, field trip time. That's right. Everybody head to that station. Thank you so much for joining us today. I appreciate all of the work that my behind the scenes crew did, and also our panelists today. Thank you each for joining us and for sharing your passion for public service. We really appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.